First, we're going to talk about the political dimension in community studies. When we talk about politics in the community, we look at power relations, which could tell us who the leaders are and who are led. Power has economic and cultural dimensions, but in this part of the report, we're going to talk about the political side. To begin, let's define power. Power is the influence on collective decisions that determine aspects of the lives of humans in certain communities and social systems. It is human actors' capacity to influence the development of the social systems that affect their lives. In the modern society, power is the control of governments, bureaucratic state institutions, parliament, military, police, parties, lobby groups, civil society groups, among others. In a community, power is the ability to affect the decision-making process and the use of resources, both public and private. It is simply the capacity to bring about change. Power comes from two major sources: authority and control of resources. Authority is the right to control others, usually resulting from a position or occupation which gives authority to the person who occupies it. Examples of such positions or occupations are city mayor, police chief, president of an organization, elected public official, fire inspector, among others. Control of resources gives an individual the potential to influence or control others. Resources in community decision-making have usually been thought of in terms of wealth or material goods. However, there are many other resources which can be crucial in today's highly complex, urbanized, and interdependent society, namely special skills, knowledge, reputation and social standing, obligations, control over jobs, credit, or morality. According to Thalin, usually when one analyzes people who have social power, it becomes apparent that most of them will use a subtle combination of authority and control of resources. There is often an interplay between these two sources of social power. People who have resources will often use their resources to obtain positions of authority. Other individuals will use a position of authority in order to increase their control of resources. All social systems and societies are based on a dialectic of structure and agency. Humans produce social structures that enable and constrain human practices that again produce and reproduce social structures. There is also a term called political capital, which means the ability of the group to influence the distribution of resources within a social unit, including helping set the agenda of what resources are available. Political capital is all about the power structures in communities. Power in communities can take many forms and be found in many people. In some communities, the power is held by elected officials. In other communities, the real people in power are those who have a reputation of being decision makers. Sometimes, too, there are hidden power structures that newcomers to a community run into when they attempt to cause change. In the community studies perspective, these factors are important to know how to build community power from both within and outside the community, and to enable us to develop inclusive and effective community programs.
I am Nyemade Manston, presenting on economic perspective in analyzing community. The definition explains how the economy of a country of economy can be used or allocated within our community or society. And these are based on the dynamic behavior, meaning the issues that affect the community or how community behave. Every community have different structure. When we claim that communities are homogeneous, We mean that with their challenges in social, economic inequalities, as well as different economic goals, different communities are positioned differently. Some example of different communities' economic goals is one community may have hospital without health insurance, while another community who has good health insurance without good hospital. Economic issues of interest within a community. The economic class is determined by the basis of social influence within the community or how they get access to resources. One is the land ownership, family history, money, obligation. The economic social structure describes the various norms, customs, as such as roles of gender, power relationship, quality of power, bias, economic access, self-aware of our own financial position with regards to others, power, authority, or leadership, decision making. The economic perspective and the community analyzing interaction are wide-ranging economic issues that have effect on how communities are organized and the relationship that exists between different elements. The structure of social economy, class system, social structures, and other pattern relationships between both social classes refer to macro level economic structure. Economic structure refer to the structure of social economic class system, social institution, and other pattern relationships between large social groups. Meso-level economic structure refers to the structure of relationship between individuals or organizations in the economic network. Macro-level economic structure refers to the structure of economic norms within the social systems that form the action of individuals. In order to address social issues that exist through our efforts, the class position and social structure must work by having a constant analysis and solution to those issues. People within class position who are hard-working people within the community must work with the economic system. For example, we have the government and other institutions. Such solutions must be transformative and not transactional. Transactional economic perspective are solutions that are not feasible and leave the community with a systematic deficiency. Transformational fix the problem, fix the system, empower community.
The historical development of the political economy perspective can be traced back as early as the 15th century. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle propound the natural law that philosophizes humans has inherited rights and not predestined, leaving the theological beliefs that are being practiced for a long period of time. Around the 16th century, the mercantilist view of trading was primarily controlled by a central unit, which is the state started the economic sense of engagement by trading. Sir John Stuart and John Baptist Colbert are among the people that epitomize this view. The 18th century marks the legitimation of economic activities through market engagements as a direct critique to mercantilism. Adam Smith is considered one of the proponents. The political aspect of market engagement started to arise because Smith's prominent book entitled An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations cited the political theorists like Hobbes, Locke, Machiavelli, and others. Incorporating the political dynamics and its power relations to the economy are institutionalized in the 19th century. Among the many theorists, Ricardo's comparative advantage and Karl Marx's class-based society are considered the new perspective pioneering ideologies. The 20th century is the age of theoretical and descriptive political economy perspective applied because of the globalization. Incorporating the power distributions of politics to the laws of the market activities in economics, political economy perspective is defined as a field in social sciences that studies the economic systems of production and trade and its relations to the institutionalized political systems such as the laws and the government. For political economists, every individual economic motivation is always embedded with its political will, and the two cannot be separated. The said perspective can also help understand economic theories like capitalism, socialism, and communism to understand every public policy system's politics. The rice tariffication law in the Philippines is one of the most current example of the political economy perspective. The said law, which is presented earlier as something that would empower local farmers to ensure economic stability, didn't posit its trajectory. Instead, it positioned the farmers into a situation that is more marginalizing in nature. The law also affects the consumer because the government cannot control the price hike on private traders, affecting both the farmers and consumers' economic security because of some political will that does not aim to serve the common good. The three components of the political economy perspectives are as follows. First is the interdisciplinary studies, in which the said perspective sees how economic systems, political institutions, and the environment affect and influence each other from different disciplines' standpoint. Disciplines like sociology, anthropology, ecology, communications, and cultural studies are among the fields that have a specific measurement of descriptions and points of analysis. The new political economy perspective is the new trajectory of the discipline in which the epistemological stance comes from the political economy as an action rather than a framework needed to be analyzed. It aims to bridge the classical and new political economy advances, aiming for policy creation both on the national and international level. The international political economy is the approach of the world as a globalized or borderless community opens a new understanding of the world system's political economy. It is also known as the global political economy, which analyzes the relationship between economics and international relations. It uses ideas from economics, sociology, and political sciences. The international political economy focuses on how states and institutions use global economic interactions to shape political systems. The said perspective theorizes the motivation behind every engagement to market embedded in the political will or desire to accumulate power. With that, political economists are concerned with the individual gains and losses once a particular policy is implemented. By looking at the benefits and liabilities of the systems, political economists can determine which groups support the policy and those who do not. Political economist also examines individuals' participation in the political activities resulting in if or it will not increase their utility. Capital and labor are the utmost used in influencing the political processes and policy formulations. Political economy behavior is composed of interests. It is the collective of aspirations that needed to be addressed by political policies and actions. These interests, in a collective form, are considered the people's power to influence policies for their betterment, resulting in economic security. This is followed by the ideas, which positioned individuals as rational and reflective with the consequences of their actions. These ideologies are embedded with their beliefs and values needed in a political and economic setting. Lastly is the institution. These are the formal organizations and written laws in which leaders are chosen and policies are made for implementation. Institutions are the structures that face individuals within the economy. Example of this are family, religion, formal, and written laws, and others. Modern theories explaining the political economy paradigm are as follows. Liberalism originated from the concept of labor and exchange through land and capital, in which the end goal is to produce goods that are durable for a long period of time. Liberal economists believe that there is a positive effects of economics, positive in a sense that everyone will benefit from the market engagement, resulting in improved living standards. Liberal economists are fond of the benefits of the market on both individual and the societal levels. Therefore, for the liberal economists, there is an equal opportunity for every individual in civil society engaging to market. On the other hand, Marxism is the total counterpart of the liberalism. This theory claims that there's no such thing as an equal opportunity because the wealth produced in labor and exchanges can be privatized. Private ownership will lead to inequality, resulting in a class-based society. And a society that is based on class strengthens its stratification, favoring only the elites and not the society as a whole. Whereas the economic nationalism standpoint is the ideology that the state possesses all the power and the individuals are expecting to cooperate to maximize the economics holistic benefits. In practice, this theory believes that the government is the central power that controls all the resources, and the individuals are labeling as ignorant and ineffective without a strong state.
Now we move on to the application of these perspectives in community analysis. We look at both the political economy on rural and geography, as well as urban regimes. When taking into account the politico-economic perspective, there are different angles we could look at, such as power relations between members, state-community power relations, economic motivation among members, and state-community economic relations. First, on rural geography. When looking at power relations between members, rural residents have power, but not just in terms of financial status, but that which results in stratified or class-based rural communities. For example, agency relations and the changing roles of private sectors, elites, and institutions put the agricultural community into its changing concept of status and power. In terms of state-community power relations, localized power struggles and resistance must be taken into account by the state. In here, power is a variety of ways and should not always be coercive. Negotiation and distributional consequences of planning decisions must be done. In a study by Mark Wart about the Philippine Renewable Energy Act, it has always been observed that the complex multi-level governance system of the Philippines and the distribution of power resources and capacities affected the implementation process of the said policy. Local government units play an important role when it comes to project implementation. They are responsible for local clearance and provide the necessary permits to project developers. The overall awareness of renewables varies from municipality to municipality, but in general is relatively low. Corruption and lack of coordination and communication between the national and local authorities were noted as problems. Although it is hard to change the political landscape, policymakers can facilitate coordination and capacity building for local staff that goes beyond the minimum level of training on renewable energy. Furthermore, local inclusion and capacity building are vital to effective policy implementation. In terms of economic motivation among members, when class-based analysis continues to develop, private ownership resulting from paid and/or reciprocal labor is normalized. The unevenness in the patterns and process of capital accumulation will reconstruct new economic and social relations in a given rural space. In terms of state-community economic relations, policy making recognizing the inequality on market participation and factors like geographic migration and access to resources must be acknowledged by the state. The concept of spatial patterns must be taken into account as well. Urban areas must not be equated as something that is not rural, but has its own economic design and direction.
We could also use the politico-economic perspective in looking at urban regimes. When looking at power relations between members, regime theory is a perspective that local politics mattered and those dominating individual or groups affects the welfare of urban citizens. Regimes can be a community of low-income opportunity groups as well as the business-dominated and progressive middle classes. The theory focuses on the local interactions between the local political groupings. In terms of state-community power relations, regime theory can be a pluralist in nature in a sense that policy creations are only concerned with who will benefit rather than asking who made them. Political coalitions are also assumed as a positive end that would change people's lives, and the other possible end are not theorized. The power in this theory must be created rather than governed or controlled. In terms of economic motivation among members, urban transformations and the effect of economic restructuring on a global scale are prominent to urban communities. Demographical movements like in and out migration due to economic motivation may transform the traditional setup of urban communities. More challenges are positioned in mobilizing marginalized urban groups in an economic structure that is capitalist as well as global in nature. In terms of state-community economic relations, international engagements and partnership to other countries may place urban communities into a more scattered and merged identities. Economic policies considering its international relations may hinder the pursuit of economic stability among urban communities.